Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just go back one slide. So what's my talk about today? Nice long title, but what does it mean? The summary here is, this talk will be the 15 minutes of work you do next week at the office that will make you most money this year. No one believes me when I tell them that, but by the time you get to the end here, I'll prove it to you. That's what this deck is about. It's about proving it, not talking about how good your experience is, but actually proving it. And I'll come back to this. And you'll want to know what this slide is. So what does this slide tell me about user experience? That's a little tease. We'll come back to that later. First of all, though, a name check. These are the 3 people that made everything in this deck today happen. And I better give credit to the other 2 people, because they did a lot of the work here. But what am I talking about today is going to be how you can go about optimizing your device flows without spending ages doing it. And 15 minutes work is all you need. But first of all, let's go back in time to when I first started work. Back to the year 2000. The dot-com boom, loads of money sloshing in. And what was one of the first websites that I was working on at the time? It was John Lewis, the big department store in the United Kingdom. And this website is called John Lewis Now, and no one's ever heard of it. That's because it doesn't exist. Because when they built it, it was dog shit. And it didn't work on the browsers that people had. It didn't work on the dial-up modems that they had in their computers. So it sucked. And it also cost £1.5 million. And we never got it back. We never launched it. This was 18 years ago. So things should have improved by now, right? We should have learned some useful lessons. So what kind of cool stuff do I get to work on these days? This is a landing page experience. Is it? This is the most popular resolution for this product. They have a lot of laptops visit their site, and this is what happens when you land on it. This is 18 years of progress. My ass. Let's give you another example. How about a large reputable company? I'm standing on a train platform. It's February this year. I'm really cold. I see this holiday in Funchal, in Madeira, in Portugal. And so I go to their landing page. I see the photograph. I go to the landing page. Where is my holiday? Oh, look, there is a terminal move at London Gatwick. This is what I need. This is how relevant this is to me. Okay, so I scroll and I scroll and I scroll, and I find Madeira. There's no photograph, so there's no connection between this and the advert, but I think this might be the right one. So I click, and I think, oh my God, what is this? Right, I can't even read this, and it's 3 meters high, okay? This is on a mobile phone. How much chance are you going to have, right? And it gets worse than that, okay? Because all of these tiny little touch targets are about 2 or 3 millimeters in size. They're too small to hit with a finger or a thumb, right? It's impossible to actually use this. And they spent millions on it. But you can't use it on a mobile. Let's see what my finger looks like on this interface, right? Let's see. Let's take the giant meat puppet and slap it on there. Oh, I want the 5-star rating, but my finger is too big. I need to make it smaller, or I need to fix this bloody website. So I can't use any of these. I can't click on that, it's too small, and good luck using the page controls at the top, right? It gets even better, because when you choose a destination, it zooms out, and I can't see the button, okay? I can't choose anything. Also has no European destinations. It must be a Brexit thing. You could go anywhere else apart from Europe. Stupidest thing we've ever done. Stupidest thing in hundreds of years. Anyway, that's enough about that. I'll get back to that later. But this is the worst thing. I leave after missing my train. I'm still freezing cold, and I leave and I get one of these pop-ups for feedback. How annoying is that? But the worst thing is, I can't say, yes, please. I want to give you really bad feedback because I can't click on the effing button because it's off canvas. Technical term. Okay, so this is a big company, millions of pounds. Advertising, marketing, they should have put their billboard advertising under the sea where I couldn't see it for all the good it did. And here's another example. Yesterday, Norwegian, really good website, really good service. I love having Wi-Fi. I love Norwegian, but they do ass things like this. We already pre-filled passport information from your profile. And we put some stars in it, like your credit card number. But then they say, your passport number's invalid, but you gave it to me. It's not my fault. Yeah, I feel depressed. You know, they're trying to help me. They make it worse. Invalid. What a horrible error message. The developers must have written this one because nobody else bothered. Here's another one. RBS. Huge bank. Too big to fail. Obviously, too big to operate a modern web browser. Chrome, it's been broken for 2 weeks. I can't use my online banking. I have to use Internet Explorer. Have you any idea how evil that is? And I tweeted them, and they said, oh, you can call our support line. 40 minutes waiting time. No, I'm not going to call them. Here's another one. Here's a perfect example. Hey, Craig, on our form analytics, it's strange, but the most edited field that people keep editing is the customer name. Can you tell us why people are so stupid that they can't pick their name? And I'm like, most people have learned to spell their name, you know, by the time they're about this big, right? Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is you've got the spell checker turned on, you idiots. It's not them correcting their name, it's you correcting them and them having to edit it back. And see, immigration, isn't it terrible? All these confusing new names that you will autocorrect, you know, into nice sounding British or Swedish names. Fantastic. The misery that this causes. They know what their name is. You just need to turn spell checker off. What about other companies? All this one company I worked with, every single one of their numbers, telephone number, how long have you lived at this address? You know, your home phone number, they make you fill it in with an alphanumeric keyboard. Why? I'm not going to type it phonetically, Alpha, Foxtrot, you know. I'm not going to describe it like this. Give me numbers. It's a number, so use numbers. Crazy. This stuff makes me mad. So angry. This is my friend Michael Ogard from Denmark. It makes him angry too. But there's a solution to this. People ask me, who is your hero? Who do you look up to? Who do you worship that has taught you lots? And it's this guy, Luke Wroblewski, right? He's a god to me because he taught me how to solve all this. This is the best 3 hours you will watch this year on mobile web design. Watch it. You'll wonder why you didn't watch this stuff from this guy before. So here's my big secret. But here's the fundamental problem. We're building user experiences 18 years later that fail these basic tests. There's a basic hierarchy of needs. Does it work on the stuff they have in their hand? Does it load and run quickly? Can customers actually use it? And can they read the text, right? If you do those 4 things, the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. That's all marketing crap, right? These are foundations. Whiffle, right? The whiffle will take care of itself. And if you want names for these, that's what they are. Device compatibility, performance, usability, legibility, the rest is easy, right? Most people fail at these basics. And the problem is, you could be running A/B testing, right? You could be running all sorts of really cool and clever things on your website, but all you're doing is burning rubber donuts in the car park of user experience. Everyone turns up, they burn their tires off, and they think that was great, but you didn't go anywhere. You're still in the supermarket car park. It just feels good, and it's expensive. So where are we in 2018? Largely in denial about these problems, because we all have product defects. Our companies have them, our clients have them. It's just nobody's actually checked. Nobody proves this. Oh, we test all our stuff, it all works fine. Nobody calls up to complain. It's all good. Right? Until you've actually tested what people use, it's just bullshit. It's an assumption. It's a belief, right? You need evidence. So why don't we hear about this stuff? What if 5 people call you? Then you've got a massive problem. If one person calls you, even if nobody calls, it doesn't mean that your experience is perfect. No one ever calls to complain. We have a perfect user experience. That's why. So when I uncover one of these problems, I understand what the developers have done. It's a mistake. It's a technical thing. I get that, right? But what do customers see? What's the visceral feeling they get when they walk into your online store and something's broken? It's like this. It's like encountering dog shit in retail. Dog shit is not supposed to be in retail, and if you ever see it, you'll think there's something wrong with this store. They've put a sign up. They don't care that there's dog shit on the floor. They're sending you a message. We want you to walk around this because we can't be bothered to pick it up. And that's what you are saying when you have a broken experience on your website. And here's another problem. This is the world's largest nappy. We also call it the call center because nothing escapes from it. All the bad smells and everything are kept inside, and you don't really see what's going on. And that's the problem. Call centers are often designed to bury bugs. They don't report on this stuff. They find it hard to reproduce them. So they bury them. It goes to the Indiana Jones warehouse. And it's very rare to see Bug Hunter for these kind of things. For security bugs, we get that. The internet industry has taken on board that risk, but there's a risk with these kind of bugs. So this is very important. If you're a car manufacturer, you manage these risks, because if you don't, you're going to have product recall. You're going to have lawsuits against you. You know, you have to manage these business risks of getting defects and wrong in products. So what have car manufacturers done? Can we learn something from them in the web industry? Well, yes, because they've gone from dirty, smelly, Finnish 1940s really hazardous working environment, and here we are, completely automated environment with no humans. But these things, all these methodologies like Six Sigma and Lean and Kaizen, all these things have been developed in manufacturing to manage these risks, right? To remove defects in the product, to get the quality up, because if you don't solve these, they can have huge, massive impacts for your company. Car manufacturers, anyone making consumer products gets this. I just wish we would get it on the web as well. And this is the problem. What's the one thing out of all this that would make a difference? And what today is about is I just want you to prove it. And this is what I'm going to show you. So, first of all, if you're giving this work to some analytics guys, they need to do some basic groundwork, and it's all contained in this deck. I'm not going to go through it. It's just some sensible starting points that they have to do. One of them that I'm going to mention, though, is if you haven't had your Google Analytics audited, you need to get it audited now. Google Analytics may be free, but it doesn't configure itself. If you buy a new dashboard for your car, you have to wire it into all the signals in your car. And Google Analytics is the same. It will not work out of the box. There is no such thing as plug-and-play analytics. Data quality is something you earn. It's not a gift. So over 95% of nearly 500 configurations I've audited were all broken really badly. That means out of all of you guys, most of you probably don't know that your data's wrong. So go and check it. And there's all the stuff that you need to do it. If you want me to come and do it, I'll do it. But there's DIY. The groundwork I've mentioned. So let me talk you through how we actually build this. And what we're interested in with device experiences is what data should I look at? What devices are we really interested in? You know, where do they suck in the overall journey? Do we lose them on the landing page? Is it somewhere deeper in the site that we lose people? And the fundamental point is that we're not looking for a precise model. What we're doing is we're looking for, yeah, that's kind of worse than that, that's kind of better, this is way high, this is way low. We're looking for outliers and oddities because we're looking for some easy wins here, devices that really suck, not looking for a perfect model. So here's how it's done. This is how I live my whole life with Google Analytics in terms of the device experience model. So this is the way you split your data. If you want one diagram that says, this is how I should divide and segment all of my device experience data on my website, that is it. It took me 3 years to work out these are the things that will actually tell you what's going on. And so, for example, on mobile, you've really only got 2 games in town. It's Apple and Android. For most people, those are the main 2. You may get a smattering of Windows devices, but they're relatively small. Doesn't really matter if you want to look at the resolutions of Android, because that doesn't work in Google Analytics. All of this is contained in the articles and the documentation that are part of this deck. But as you step through and have a look at this stuff, you'll find odd stuff like that in Google Analytics. So, for example, if you look at iPhone models in Google Analytics, the data is bullshit, okay? Write to me if you want an explanation, but the only way to find out what models of iPhones are on your site with Google Analytics is to look at the screen resolution. And this is all explained on Apple's website. Go and have a look at it. But you can't ask Google Analytics for this data. You have to use this as a proxy. So these are the kind of problems. This data model is something I've understood, but I've now worked it out for you so that you can run this stuff in 15 minutes. Same with Windows. Windows, you've got Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Explorer. And desktop Mac, it's down to Safari and Chrome as the browsers. So what you're doing is you're taking all your data and segmenting it in a meaningful way within Google Analytics to tell you how well these different subsegments are actually performing. And with tablet, we've got some information there as well, but that as a percentage is decreasing quite a bit in a lot of the client's data I'm looking at. So that is the model. That is the model. If you take this model and then use the materials I've given you to fill in the gaps, you'll find the whole thing here, right? Step-by-step guide. Go through it all, and you will get the same thing out of this that I have done. So what you do is you download this download this custom report for Google Analytics, which will then give you some data. You then take this blank Excel spreadsheet, and you fill in the blanks from that report. It's as simple as that. And when you're finished, you will then end up with something like one I made earlier that looks like this. So here's one that I run. Here's the interesting thing. If you look at the top here under mobile, why is it that revenue per user and the conversion rate of Android phones is like half of iPhones? Is the experience half as good? Yeah, it is, because there were 13 bugs that we found that affected every single Android phone, every one of them. Nobody had tested for this. Nobody had checked it. It's worth a lot of money, right? So over 3 months, would have netted about £45,000 extra. Gets better than that, though. Here on Chrome, right? Why is Chrome posting double the conversion rate of Internet Explorer 11? There's no earthly reason why it should be twice as good at getting money, unless the people using it are completely different. And if they're not, then it's the browser. Again, we checked the browser and tested it, and we found some bugs. 4 simple bugs fixed all of that. Money that was missing. It's missing money that you don't know about. Here's another one. This is very common. When people test on iPhones, they always test using really big iPhones. They don't test using smaller ones, right? So what you find is, oh, it works great on my phone, but it doesn't work great on the smaller screen phones where there isn't enough space to fit the navigation. This was the problem here. Navigation was broken on smaller phones. And given the iPhone was the largest audience that had the most money, that seems like a really stupid thing to do to me. So once you've been through and made your model, you'll know what the conversion rates are like, what the percentages are of the traffic, and you can see at a glance where all this conversion is actually coming from and how it's spread across these subsegments. But what you really want is to go one level deeper than this. Yes, even deeper than this. And that's to funnelize it. What would happen on your site if you had a funnel for Androids, a funnel for tablets, a funnel for iPhones, a funnel for an iPhone 7, right? A funnel for people coming from India, a funnel for people from the UK. You can do all of these things. And one of the examples of funnelization led us to this one. What we're showing here is that the e-commerce conversion rate of people who land on these pages. Why is the e-com conversion rate so lousy for people who land on a product page? And the answer was, it was a bug. You couldn't move the product page up because the image just moved with you. You were stuck in jail, right? That is 1.3 million higher in sales a month, right? Extra money, that's 1.3 million pounds extra money a month, right? The worst thing is that 40% of all the traffic going to those product pages was PPC. So they were spending advertising, sending people to a page that they couldn't actually use. That's really, really bad marketing. And that was the quote. That was the quote from someone who looked at the bug that had been on their site for a year and 2 months. They said to me, this is making more money than all of the A/B tests that we ran over the last year because it affects every bit of our product. And that's the fundamental problem that we're trying to deal with here. The other interesting thing is you can't possibly go through your site and test everything and test every part of the site on every single device. So you have to prioritize. And if you use the stuff I've shown you today, it'll help you prioritize your user testing or other qualitative research. So, you know, data doesn't drive anything. It's a bit of a bullshit term. But what if the data actually allowed me to focus on the problem areas? What if the model told me that we really should look at step 3 in the checkout, because that's where the biggest loss was on mobile devices? What it's doing is it's giving you a tighter focus, a tighter frame of reference for having a look at these. So then when you actually go and do some testing, you can focus usability testing or device testing or session replay on the problem areas, the part of the funnel or the landing page or the devices that are causing the big problem here. So your modeling will help you solve this. And there's no excuse not to test this stuff because there are cloud services available. You can test every modern browser by using a virtual machine. You can test all mobile devices. Amazon has a device farm in the cloud. So does Device Anywhere. If I want to rent an iPhone 7 in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, that's connected to a telco there, I can rent it for 1 hour from Device Anywhere. I can visit the Brazilian App Store, and I can test all this stuff. There are even open device labs in a city near you, so it doesn't cost anything either. But don't tell me it's too hard to test, because you can, and it's all there. And if you want a minimum viable testing list, what should your minimum testing list be for a modern web product? Then that is it. A small iPhone, an S7 or S8, Chrome and Firefox on desktop for Windows, Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer 11, and Mac Safari. And if you really have to, a recent model Android and Apple tablet. But that's it. That's a minimum viable list. If you don't test with that minimum viable list, then you need to go back to whoever drew up your list and say, your list is probably wrong. Please get your Google Analytics data out, because that is real customer data, not guessing. The great thing about all of this is you can automate it. So you don't even need to use a spreadsheet. You can steal this grid, which will pull in all this information for your product. I've also created this version of the grid, which will do this and help you funnelize it. And even better, I also built a tool called Profit Grid, which will create all of this for you without doing any work. So you can plug in your Google Analytics, you can describe what steps of the funnel you have got, and then this will go away and multi-dimensionalize it. So it will pull back all these stats and funnel steps, but it will do it for every model of phone, for different types of browser, for desktop, tablets, mobile, different countries. And you get a big grid that looks like this back. It looks like a lot of data, but I could look along this grid and find problems within 5 minutes, because it's a grid of everything. Here's an example. This was a travel site, and this one little bit in the grid here that told me people were dropping out at the start of the booking is for a massive railway company. They sell a lot of tickets. People could not book multi-city return trips on tablets because the button was broken. Nobody knew this, nobody had called, causing immense customer frustration and also a loss of revenue every month. That's working out at about 1.4, 1.5 million a month. It's a lot of money going missing. And it was going missing. Everything you need to do all of this, to automate it, is all included in that pack. And I'll tweet the slides afterwards. You don't even really need to use any tools like mine either. You can do all this inside an Excel spreadsheet. There are add-ons for Google and for Excel that are free or very cheap. And all of this stuff can be automated. So you can run it every week and check if your developers have broken your website again after fixing it last week. But that's the point. You might think it's working now, but it's already broken again. We need to solve this with machine learning. It's something I'm working on. But anyway, here's all the stuff that you need in here to do this with Excel. But this is the process. If I'm looking at a site for the first time, I'll model it, I'll do some qualitative research, I'll then do some device testing, then I'll try and automate this entire model for the client and use it on a regular basis to keep continually challenging the assumption that everything is working. It's not. Just get used to it. So when I'm optimizing a business, I think of it a bit like a watch. People are saying, oh, it's not saying the right time. You know, the business KPI isn't going the right way for me. It's a bit like the watch telling the incorrect time. How are you going to fix the watch unless you know how all the little cogs work and which one is broken? You have no chance of changing the time on the front of the watch unless you understand what happens inside, because it's difficult to solve a problem that you don't actually understand or have even acknowledged. But it's bigger than just a little bit of device testing. It actually comes down to a fundamental human right of accessibility. So imagine, like me, you're one of the people who wears corrective lenses every day, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to put our text in a tiny font, because we're just going to say, fuck you, person who wears glasses. We don't want you using our website. We don't want your money either. Go away, square eyes. That's the message. What about cool people with Macs on a bleached wooden surface photo guys, right? Who are always taking photos like this of working away. No, we don't want them either. Even if they have lots of money, right? Mac guys, we don't want them at all. Screw you, Mac guys. What about another one? Let's just get somebody else. What if you're over 50? You're really wealthy. You have several classic cars, but you use Internet Explorer 11. You're saying, no, we don't want your money, wealthy person. Fuck you. You should use a more modern browser. That's fine. We leave all this money on the table by discriminating against these people, either actively or unintentionally. I mean, it gets worse. If you don't test properly on Android, you could just be discriminating against poor people around the whole world. What a fantastic job you'd be doing. You're saying, you have less money, screw you. But let's get back to the important bit. That slide I showed you at the start, what was that? Yes, that was the amount of money that they were losing every month because of bugs on their website that nobody had called them up about. And the total time to fix all of those bugs was less than 5 days of developer effort. Go figure. I told you it was the best 15 minutes that you would spend. But at the end of the day, accessibility is not about supporting different browser types and people with disabilities. It's about supporting everyone. It's about reach. The more devices you support, the more things you will sell, the more people will read your stuff, the more people you will reach. It's all about that widening of the net. And device testing, you know, if you actually do some proper device testing, it will drive customer delight. People will be happier using your product. There'll be less defects. You will make more profit and more revenue. And that's the fundamental problem, not in a way, at the heart of this. I want you to go back and work that model, find out the stuff, and tell me so that we can please end this type of device discrimination today. Thank you very much for your time.
That's a good point. No discrimination.
No
right.
discrimination.
No discrimination.
Intentional or unintentional,
yeah.
Stop it now.
Yeah, exactly. My first question when I heard you talk was, why?
Why?
Because you make it sound so simple. Just, you know, look at all devices, look at the browsers your users are using. So why don't companies do this?
Because testing is hard, and people don't, we don't have enough time to test, okay? But it's a bit like saying, we don't have enough time to check whether the steering works on our car, right? We're going to get the car out onto the market. People may die, but that's cool. That is not a phrase that people say. The problem here is that we don't see deaths from this sort of thing. We just see companies dying, right? You're going to kill your company. You may not kill a consumer with these things, but they're pretty good, at destroying your company or the value in your company if you don't get on top of them. Yeah. But most people just don't do the testing, or they test the wrong stuff. What most people don't realize is Google Analytics has data in it every day on what people are trying to use your website with. So why not use that data to make a data-driven testing list?
Because the data...
Yeah, because you go and you say, oh, do you test on all the modern stuff? Yeah, we do, yeah. Should we go and ask the guys who do it? And you go, yeah, guys, what do you test on? And they say, Firefox. Right, that's the kind of answer I get. And so the problem is somebody needs to take ownership of this and say, this is what we should test to, because this is what our consumers have.
Yeah. I have a question on that, but I want to check with my colleague, Mats. Mats, do we have any questions from the audience? Because they can...
Yes, what's your opinion on voice control in mobile devices? Is this a strong trend in e-commerce, and will it solve some of the problems with navigating in a mobile device?
One big challenge to all of you is, what are you going to do when there's no website anymore? How are you going to measure the customer? If you're selling tickets, right? Oh, we'll be able to measure the experience. No, because my house AI will talk to your ticket arbitrage platform, okay? And oh, we'll get the data from no, Amazon's not going to give you the data on their relationship with me or with my house AI, right? So you've got a problem, right? All that lovely data that you get from the web is going to go away. So I agree. I mean, all the predictions are that voice is going to take a hugely increasing amount of search and interaction. But also, you can make mistakes with that as well. If the computer says no, right? Like algorithmically, no, you can't do that. Sorry, we will not allow that. Who is watching the computer or the algorithm? The algorithm was designed by a human. It doesn't mean that you need to be evil with it.
Yeah. Any other question, Mats?
What can you do about people that don't update their browsers? What should you do?
Well, that's just tough. Okay, here's an excellent example. I was interviewing some developers for a company, and I said to him, what about using these browsers? And he said, people shouldn't use Internet Explorer. They should upgrade, stop being stupid, and use a modern web browser that's standards compliant. And I said, I notice on your CV you have 2 small children, 2 and 3 years old. I said, do you have a wife? Yeah, I said, me and my wife, and we live here. I said, so who goes shopping with the children? It's normally my wife. And I said, do you have one of those double buggies that, side by side? And he said, yeah, we have a double buggy for the 2 kids. And I said, when your wife goes shopping to the shops and the doorway isn't wide enough for her double buggy, do you tell her she was fucking stupid for buying a double buggy, or do you class that as being the store's fault? And he said, that's a very good point. It's a trade-off. Internet Explorer 8 may or may not be a significant audience in your site, but if you know how big it is, you can make the trade-off. You can say it's too expensive to support for a small amount of people, or it's too big to ignore and not support. If you have the data, you can make a business decision. It's not a technology one. And if you want your customers to buy from, you have to support the stuff that they have.
Yeah. Craig, thank you so much for coming to Webbdagarna.